Imagine standing in a village where the ground is so dry it cracks under your feet, where the wind does not just blow dust into your eyes, it slowly steals the soil your family depends on. Now imagine someone tells you the solution is to build a living wall across Africa, not made of concrete, not made of steel, but made of trees, grasses, farms, roots, and people. For years, the African Great Green Wall was called one of the most ambitious environmental projects on Earth. It was supposed to stretch across the southern edge of the Sahara, from Senegal in the west toward Djibouti in the east, helping stop land degradation and bringing life back to one of the world's most climate-vulnerable regions. But here is the part most people never hear. This wall is not growing evenly. In some places, it struggled. In some areas, trees died, funding slowed, conflicts made work dangerous, and the dream looked almost impossible. But in other places, something remarkable has been happening. Farmers are bringing trees back without planting forests. Dead fields are turning into productive land. Communities are rebuilding soil one small decision at a time.
A day will come when the Great Green Wall will change the situation in the country for the better.
The Great Green Wall is not a perfect success story. It is not a magical green line across the desert. But in certain places, it is finally starting to work. And the reason why may change how we think about saving damaged land everywhere. To understand why this matters, you have to understand the Sahel. This is not just the edge of the desert. It is a massive transition zone where millions of people farm, herd animals, raise families, and depend directly on rain that can become unpredictable from one year to the next. When the land is healthy, it holds moisture, supports crops, feeds livestock, and protects villages from wind and erosion. But when vegetation disappears, the soil becomes exposed. Rain no longer soaks in the same way. Wind can remove the fertile top layer. Farmers harvest less. Herders must travel farther. Young people leave. And in fragile regions, environmental stress can make poverty, migration, and conflict even worse. The Great Green Wall was born from this problem. At first, many imagined it as a simple line of trees across Africa, almost like a giant forest barrier holding back the Sahara. But nature does not work like a fence, and the Sahel is not empty land waiting for someone to plant it. It is a living landscape full of people, traditions, livestock routes, farms, politics, and difficult choices. And that is where the story becomes more interesting. The Great Green Wall slowly evolved from the idea of planting one giant wall of trees into something much more realistic. Restoring landscapes. That can mean planting native trees, but it can also mean protecting natural shoots already hidden in the soil, building small stone lines to slow water, improving grazing systems, restoring watersheds, creating community gardens, and helping farmers earn income from trees instead of cutting them down. In other words, the wall is not really a wall anymore. It is a patchwork of local solutions, and that patchwork is exactly why some places are succeeding. The lesson is simple but powerful. Degraded land does not always need to be conquered. Sometimes it needs to be given the chance to recover. One of the strongest examples comes from Niger, and what happened there is almost the opposite of what many people expect. The success was not built mainly by trucks delivering millions of seedlings. It came from farmers noticing that the land was not as dead as it looked. Beneath the surface, old tree root systems were still alive. When farmers protected the shoots coming out of those roots, selected the strongest stems, trimmed them carefully, and allowed trees to grow inside their fields, the landscape began to change. This method is often called farmer-managed natural regeneration. It is low cost, practical, and it works because farmers control it themselves. Instead of waiting for outside experts to bring a forest, they reveal the forest that was already trying to return. Across parts of Niger, this approach has helped regenerate millions of hectares of farmland and hundreds of millions of trees over recent decades. The trees are not planted in neat rows like a commercial forest. They rise through millet and sorghum fields, scattered like living tools. Their roots help stabilize the soil. Their leaves can improve organic matter. Their shade reduces heat stress. Some species provide fodder, fuel wood, fruit, or other products. And most importantly, farmers have a reason to protect them because the trees make daily life easier. This is why Niger is so important to the Great Green Wall story. It shows that restoration can spread when it fits ordinary life. A farmer struggling with poor harvests does not need a beautiful slogan. He needs soil that holds water. He needs fodder for animals. He needs firewood without destroying the future of his farm. He needs a method that does not require expensive machinery or years of waiting before any benefit appears. Natural regeneration works because it turns trees from obstacles into assets. In many farming systems, trees were once cleared because people believed crops needed completely open fields. But in the Sahel, the right trees in the right density can protect crops rather than compete with them. The miracle is not that nature suddenly became generous. The miracle is that people changed the rules and stopped fighting the land's own ability to recover. In Senegal, the picture is more complicated. Some Great Green Wall sites have become symbols of hope, with community gardens, native trees, and projects built around useful species like acacia. Acacia Senegal, for example, can produce gum arabic, an ingredient used in food and drinks, which gives communities a possible economic reason to protect trees instead of cutting them. But Senegal also shows the limits of the project. Planting trees in drylands is hard. Seedlings can die from drought, livestock pressure, poor maintenance, or simply because the wrong species were planted in the wrong place. Some areas that looked impressive during planting campaigns did not show strong, long-term ecological change. This is the truth that makes the Great Green Wall both inspiring and frustrating. Planting is easy to film, but survival is what matters. 1 million seedlings in the ground is not the same as a restored ecosystem. That is why the phrase "finally working" needs to be used carefully. The Great Green Wall is not suddenly complete. It is not racing perfectly toward its 2030 goal. In fact, independent reporting and UN-linked assessments have repeatedly warned that the project is behind schedule, underfunded, and difficult to coordinate across countries facing poverty, insecurity, political instability, and climate shocks. Some donor money has been pledged but not fully delivered, or not delivered in a way that local communities can easily use. Some countries have stronger institutions than others. Some regions are too dangerous for consistent fieldwork. And across such a massive area, even measuring progress is difficult. So the honest story is not, Africa built a green wall and defeated the desert. The honest story is better. After years of slow progress, the parts that work are teaching the world what restoration really requires.
Sou missionária da Sukkyo Mahikari.
Ethiopia offers another lesson. In parts of the country, restoration is not only about trees, it is about water, slopes, soil, and entire watersheds. When hillsides are degraded, rain can rush downhill, carrying soil away and leaving farms weaker every season. But when communities build terraces, protect vegetation, plant appropriate species, and manage water more carefully, the landscape can start holding life again. Ethiopia has invested in large-scale land restoration and natural resource management, with several efforts connected to the wider Great Green Wall vision. The results are not uniform, and challenges remain severe, especially where drought, poverty, and land pressure overlap. But the deeper point is that restoration works best when it treats the land as a system. A tree planted on a bare slope may die. A tree planted as part of a watershed plan has a much better chance. So what separates the places where the Great Green Wall is working from the places where it struggles? The first factor is local ownership. When people are paid to plant trees for a campaign, the project may disappear when the money ends. But when farmers, herders, and village leaders see direct benefits, they keep protecting the land after outsiders leave. The second factor is choosing the right species and the right method. Drylands need plants adapted to heat, drought, livestock pressure, and poor soils. A tree that looks impressive in a nursery may fail in the field. The third factor is water and soil management. In the Sahel, water often comes in intense bursts. If the land cannot capture it, rain becomes erosion. Restoration must slow water down, help it soak in, and rebuild soil structure. Without that, tree planting becomes a gamble. There is also a social challenge that outsiders often miss. Land in the Sahel is shared, negotiated, inherited, borrowed, grazed, crossed, and contested. A restoration project can fail if it ignores who has the right to use land, who benefits from trees, and who loses access when an area is protected. If a project plants trees where herders need passage, conflict can grow. If women depend on certain areas for fuelwood or food gathering but are excluded from decisions, the project becomes weaker. If young people see no economic future, they may leave before restoration pays off. This is why the Great Green Wall cannot be just an environmental project. It has to be a human project. The wall grows only where trust grows with it. For an American viewer, this may feel far away, but the lesson is not far away at all. The world is entering an age where drought, soil loss, heat, and water stress are no longer rare local problems. From the American West to the Mediterranean, from Australia to South Asia, societies are learning that damaged land cannot always be fixed by one giant engineering solution. Sometimes the most powerful repair work is slower, more local, and less dramatic. Protecting roots, rebuilding soil, managing water, choosing the right vegetation, and giving communities a reason to care for the land long after the cameras leave. The Great Green Wall matters because it shows both the danger of overselling big climate promises and the power of practical restoration when people on the ground lead the work. Maybe the most powerful image of the Great Green Wall is not a satellite map or a government target. Maybe it is a farmer standing in a field that used to be bare, pointing to a tree he did not plant from a seedling, but protected from a living root. That tree is not just a tree. It is shade. It is fodder. It is soil protection. It is proof that the land was not finished. And when thousands of farmers make that same choice, the landscape begins to change in a way no single planting ceremony could achieve. This is not the kind of miracle that happens overnight. It is the kind that happens when people repeat small acts for years. Pruning, protecting, digging, learning, adapting, and refusing to treat degraded land as dead land. The Great Green Wall began as one of the boldest environmental ideas of the century. But its most important lesson may be humbler than its name. A wall cannot save the Sahel by itself. A slogan cannot hold back drought. A target on paper cannot restore soil. But people can. Roots can. Rain can, if the land is ready to receive it. And sometimes, the first sign of recovery is not a forest on the horizon, but one small tree growing where everyone thought nothing could survive. If you want more stories about places where nature, engineering, and human persistence collide, make sure to subscribe and follow the channel. Because the future of our planet may not be decided only in big cities or climate conferences, it may also be decided in quiet fields like these, where the Earth is slowly learning how to breathe again.